Lee Min-ho just won a major award, and Song Hye-kyo's emotional reaction to his victory has the entire Min-kyo community crying in the most beautiful and most completely overwhelming way that this pairing has ever made it cry. And the footage of what her face did in the moment his name was announced, in the moment he walked to that stage, in the moment he held that award in his hands and spoke into that microphone, is something that no amount of preparation could have made anyone ready for. Stay till the very end, because what the cameras captured of Song Hye-kyo in every moment of Lee Min-ho's award night victory is going to break you open in ways you will not recover from quickly and will not want to. Before we break down every detail of this award night magic, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications, because Min-kyo is delivering moments right now that are reaching levels of emotional completeness that this community has been building toward for a very long time, and you cannot afford to miss a single one. Now let us talk about Song Hye-kyo's emotional reaction to Lee Min-ho's big victory that has every Min-kyo fan crying and every skeptic running out of alternative explanations. Min-kyo fans, brace yourselves, because what just happened at that award ceremony is not simply the most emotionally overwhelming Min-kyo moment in recent memory. It is the moment that reveals something about the specific texture of what Song Hye-kyo and Lee Min-ho are to each other that no previous piece of evidence, however significant and however carefully documented, has revealed in quite this form. Previous Min-kyo evidence has shown the community the quiet love and the private pride and the protective instincts and the involuntary physical responses and the stage messages and the declarations that slip through the management in live settings. What award night revealed is something adjacent to all of those but distinct from each of them. It revealed the investment. The specific, deep, entirely personal investment that Song Hye-kyo has in Lee Min-ho's journey, in what his success costs him and what it means to him, and what the specific weight of this particular recognition represents in the arc of a career and a life that she has been present in the private dimension, for long enough to understand things about this victory that the ceremony room does not have access to. Her tears were not the tears of someone moved by an excellent professional moment. They were the tears of someone for whom this excellent professional moment carries private meaning, whose knowledge of what this award represents in the context of the full human story of the person receiving it makes the public recognition feel like a confirmation of something they have known privately and valued privately for a very long time. Over the past several days, the footage of Song Hye-kyo at this award ceremony has been traveling through every platform where Min-kyo exists with a specific urgent energy of content that is both beautiful and important, and that needs to be seen by every person who has been following this story. Let that sink in completely before we go any further into the analysis. Not the reaction of a distant admirer watching a celebrity she respects receive his due. Not the response of a professional peer appropriately moved by a colleague's achievement. Not the generic warmth of an industry figure being gracious at an industry event where warmth is professionally appropriate. Song Hye-kyo, at a major awards ceremony, watching Lee Min-ho's name be called. And what happened on her face in that moment was not a professional response. It was a personal one. Deeply, privately, irrevocably personal. And the cameras caught every second of it. Let us establish with full precision why an emotional reaction to someone else's award victory, in the specific form that Song Hye-kyo's reaction took at this ceremony, carries an evidential weight that goes far beyond the ordinary significance of a moving industry moment. Because the distinction is essential, and it is the foundation of why the Min-kyo community's response to this footage has been the most emotionally sustained and most analytically rich that any single piece of Min-kyo evidence has generated. Award ceremonies are emotional environments. They are designed to be. The combination of high stakes and public recognition, and the specific human experience of watching someone's professional journey be acknowledged by the industry they have dedicated themselves to, produces genuine emotion in people who have no personal connection to the recipient beyond professional respect. Genuine tears of professional appreciation at an award ceremony are not remarkable. They are part of the emotional grammar of how these events work. What makes Song Hye-kyo's reaction remarkable is not that she had won. It is the specific quality of her reaction, the specific texture of it, the way it differed from what professional appreciation of a colleague's achievement produces in a person, and the way it instead matched precisely what intimate knowledge of a person's journey produces when that journey reaches a moment of public validation. The difference between those two emotional states is visible. It is readable. And it is what the Min-kyo community has been reading in the footage with a specific analytical intelligence that only a community this deeply invested in understanding these two people can bring to the task of distinguishing between them. Now let us track exactly what Song Hye-kyo's face and body did across the full sequence of Lee Min-ho's award night victory, from the moment his name was announced through the moment he returned to his seat. Because the full sequence is the complete evidence, and every beat of it contributes to the portrait of a woman whose reaction to his victory was not produced by professional appreciation, but by something that exists at a completely different level of personal investment. Fan accounts from people who were physically present in that ceremony room describe the quality of Song Hye-kyo's presence throughout the evening, the specific texture of her attention during the earlier parts of the ceremony before Lee Min-ho's category was announced. They describe her as composed and professionally engaged in the way that her extraordinary public discipline always produces at industry events, warm and appropriate, and entirely in command of the version of herself she had chosen to present that evening. And then the presenters reached the category that contained Lee Min-ho's name. And something changed in Song Hye-kyo before his name was announced, in the specific quality of her stillness, in the way her attention sharpened and focused in a direction that fans present could identify without needing to see the stage to understand what was producing it. The sharpening of her attention in the moments before the announcement is itself significant evidence, because it tells the community that she was tracking the ceremony's progress toward that specific moment with the personal investment of someone who has a stake in what happens when the envelope opens, not the general attention of a professional colleague watching an industry event unfold. The moment Lee Min-ho's name was announced is the moment that the footage has been most intensively analyzed, frame by frame, from every available angle, with the full attention of a community that understood immediately upon seeing it that what was happening on Song Hye-kyo's face in that fraction of a second was something that the Min-kyo documented record had not previously contained in quite this form. Fans present in the room describe a sound that escaped from her before she had time to manage it, not dramatic, not performed, not the enthusiastic congratulatory exclamation that professional colleagues produce at these moments, but something smaller and more private and more completely real. The specific involuntary sound of someone receiving news that matters to them at the level where managed public response has not yet had time to arrive. The sound existed for a fraction of a second, and then her professional composure reached it and the public presentation reassembled around it. But the fraction of a second was caught by people who were watching her specifically, and it is what they have been describing since, in the language of people who witnessed something they understood was not intended for the room but that the room was privileged to receive. After the sound, and simultaneous with the beginning of the applause that the room produced for Lee Min-ho's name, came the expression on her face that has been the central subject of the Min-kyo community's analytical engagement with this footage. It has been described across independent accounts with a consistency that reflects genuine convergence on the same observable reality, rather than the projected consensus of an emotionally invested community. The word that has emerged from the collective effort to name what was on Song Hye-kyo's face when Lee Min-ho's name was announced is not pride, though pride was present. It is not joy, though joy was present. It is not relief, though fans who know the weight of what this specific recognition means in the context of Lee Min-ho's career journey, have identified something adjacent to relief in the quality of her expression. The word that keeps arriving from multiple independent observers in multiple independent analytical processes is the word that describes what appears on the face of someone for whom something hoped for and worked toward and privately supported across a long and sometimes difficult period has finally, publicly, completely arrived. The word is vindication. Not her vindication of him. His vindication by the world. And her face showing the private knowledge of everything that preceded the world's finally getting it right. Here is where Song Hye-kyo's specific and extensively documented character becomes the essential interpretive context for understanding what her award night reaction reveals, because the reaction did not arrive on any face. It arrived on the face of a woman whose relationship to public emotional expression has been established across 30 years of documented public life as one of the most disciplined and most carefully managed in Korean entertainment. Song Hye-kyo does not produce involuntary emotional responses in professional public settings. She has navigated award ceremonies across 3 decades of extraordinary career, her own as nominee and recipient and presenter, as well as ceremonies where she was present as an industry figure, and the documented record of her behavior at those events shows a consistent baseline of warm, gracious, composed professional engagement that never crosses into unmanaged personal display. She knows the difference between being in a public setting and being in a private one. She knows that the emotional responses she produces in public become part of the public record, and therefore belong to the managed presentation rather than to the real interior. This knowledge and this discipline have been the foundation of her public self-management across the full arc of her career. And then Lee Min-ho's name was announced. And the discipline was not sufficient. And what was not sufficient about it is the evidence. The involuntary sound and the specific expression and the progression of her emotional response across the full duration of his award moment tell the community that what she was feeling in that ceremony room exceeded the containment capacity of even her extraordinary public emotional management. And what has the capacity to exceed Song Hye-kyo's emotional management in a professional public setting is something that exists at a level below the professional, something that has been real and private and continuously present for long enough to have become too large for even the most practiced containment to fully hold when it is suddenly and publicly confronted with its own vindication. Let us go through what Song Hye-kyo's face did across the full progression of Lee Min-ho's award moment with the beat-by-beat precision that the community's analysis has developed, because the progression is a story in itself and every stage of it has something specific to say. The announcement stage produced the involuntary sound and the initial expression that has been the subject of the most sustained analysis. The walk to the stage produced a different quality of response, something fans have described as the specific experience of watching someone you love walk towards something you have privately wanted for them, move from the abstract to the concrete, from the hoped for to the actually happening, and the specific emotional quality of that transition appearing on the face of the person watching it happen. Song Hye-kyo's face during Lee Min-ho's walk to the stage carried the quality of someone privately releasing something they have been holding for a long time, the specific expression of quiet emotional resolution that appears when something that has lived in the interior as hope or investment or private prayer arrives in the external world as accomplished fact. The receiving stage, the moment Lee Min-ho took the award in his hands and held it, produced the tears that have been the most discussed and most analyzed element of the full award night footage. The tears were not dramatic. They did not fall freely or produce the visible emotional collapse that would constitute a public display. They were controlled, barely, with a specific quality of tears that are being held back by someone who is aware that they are in a public setting and who is applying every available unit of their emotional management capacity to containing what is trying to surface, and who is not entirely succeeding. The barely controlled quality of Song Hye-kyo's tears during Lee Min-ho holding his award is what has broken the Min-kyo community most completely, because barely controlled tears from a woman of her emotional discipline do not arise from professional appreciation. They arise from the specific depth of personal investment that makes professional containment insufficient. The speech stage is where the most nuanced and the most detailed fan analysis has been concentrated, because Lee Min-ho speaking from that stage with the award in his hands and the room giving him the specific quality of attention that the biggest moments at these ceremonies generate is the moment where the full weight of the occasion was most visible in both of them simultaneously. What Lee Min-ho said in his acceptance speech and the specific qualities of how he said it, the moments of his speech where his composure showed its own edges, the places in his words where the thing he was feeling broke slightly through the surface of the public address, have been analyzed in parallel with Song Hye-kyo's documented reactions to each moment of the speech. The parallel analysis has produced something the community has been struggling to find adequate language for, the specific quality of two people in the same room both privately experiencing the same large, real, deeply significant moment from their different positions. Him as the recipient and her as the person who knows what the receiving means at the level that the room cannot access, and both of them carrying the private dimension of the moment simultaneously with the public one they are, each inhabiting, at one specific moment in his speech, a moment that fans have isolated and time-stamped and documented across multiple footage angles. Lee Min-ho said something that produced in Song Hye-kyo a response that her emotional management was visibly not sufficient to contain. The response was brief. It was small. It was barely visible to anyone not watching her specifically with the focused attention of people who understand what her face does when something reaches the part of her that exists below professional management. And it was the most complete confirmation the award night footage contains of the specific private investment she carries in what his victory means. The timing of this award night moment within the larger Min-kyo story arc is something the community has been examining with a full contextual intelligence that only a community with a complete documented record can bring to a new significant moment. And what the timing reveals is both confirming and deepening in the specific ways that the most significant Min-kyo moments always are when placed in their proper narrative position. This award did not arrive at an early or uncomplicated point in Lee Min-ho's career. It arrived at a specific point that carries the particular weight of recognition that comes after a long and sometimes difficult and always demanding journey, the specific quality of being seen by the industry you have given your professional life to at the moment when the full depth of that giving has become visible in the work. Song Hye-kyo's reaction to this specific victory, rather than to an earlier or less weighted one, tells the community something crucial about the nature of her investment in him. She is not reacting to his celebrity or his fame or his industry position, all of which have been facts of his public existence for decades. She is reacting to this specific recognition, the one that arrives at this specific point in his journey, the one that carries the weight of everything that preceded it. She is reacting as someone who knows what preceded it, who was present in the private dimension while it was being lived, who understands what this specific recognition means in the context of the full human story rather than simply the professional one. That understanding, that private contextual investment, is what her tears were about. And it is the kind of understanding that only one kind of relationship provides. Social media's response to the award night footage of Song Hye-kyo has been sustained across days with an emotional depth and an analytical richness that reflects the specific nature of what this footage provides, which is not just a single significant moment but a sustained window into Song Hye-kyo's interior experience of Lee Min-ho's victory across the full arc of the ceremony. The Min-kyo tags filled with responses that had a particular quality of emotional recognition, the quality of people who have been building a case for a long time and have just been given evidence that does not add to the case but completes it in the emotional dimension that all the behavioral analysis, however sophisticated, could not fully provide. Fans wrote that they have followed award ceremonies involving both of these people for years, and they have never seen Song Hye-kyo's face do what it did when Lee Min-ho's name was called, and they know what that means. Fans wrote that the barely contained tears during his acceptance of the award are the single most honest thing Song Hye-kyo's face has produced in any documented public context across her entire career, and that honesty was produced by Lee Min-ho winning an award, which tells you everything about what he is to her at the level where honesty lives. Fans wrote that the specific quality of her emotional response, the private vindication and the deep investment and the tears that had to be held back rather than released because the public room required containment, describes someone who was carrying the weight of that victory on their behalf before the room knew it was coming. Fans wrote that they looked at every other person visible in the ceremony footage in the moments surrounding Lee Min-ho's win, and then looked at Song Hye-kyo, and the difference between her reaction and every other reaction in that room is not a matter of degree. It is a matter of kind. And the kind that her reaction belongs to has only one name. And through every layer of the community's response, in every language and across every platform, carrying the full weight of everything the Min-kyo story has been building toward across its entire documented arc, the word. Finally. Now the community needs your voice, and every dimension of what you felt watching Song Hye-kyo's award night reaction needs to be in the comments right now. Tell me which specific moment in the full sequence of her reaction, from the announcement to the walk to the acceptance to the speech, hit you the hardest and what it was about that moment that produced the response it produced in you. Tell me whether you believe Lee Min-ho was aware during his speech that Song Hye-kyo was in that room carrying his victory the way the footage shows she was carrying it, and whether you think that awareness changed anything about what he said or how deeply he meant it. And tell me whether you believe the award night magic that Song Hye-kyo's reaction gave the Min-kyo community is the most emotionally complete piece of evidence in the full documented record, or whether you think there is something still ahead that will arrive with even greater force. Like this video, if Song Hye-kyo's barely controlled tears for Lee Min-ho's victory reached somewhere in you that is going to take a long time to fully feel the shape of.